Hello, people. This is the Seattle Overload podcast where we're going to recap the Seahawks Week 2 preseason defeat to the Tennessee Titans. Unfortunate as that was, there is still some encouraging things for us to dive into. Let me know how my mic volume is. I'm seeing it looks pretty quiet right now, and I know that has been a criticism. So what I could do is just, hold on, whack it up a bit. Let me know, how's this now? Is that too loud? This is what the preamble is going to be. Just adjusting my mic volume until it's too loud or not. It doesn't even seem to be adjusting too much, so...
I think you're good.
Yeah, well, there's always one person in the chat. Monjombo asking, did Matty get a haircut? No, Matty just didn't do his hair. But I did it, I did get it cut. Jen, I believe it was. Jen noticed I had a haircut the other day. Griff, massive news though, and thank you very much, people, for the comments. Misfit saying too loud. Oh dear.
Now he's saying good.
Great. I need a hat. Narc Diaries, is that a diss at my 4 a.m. hair? Or is that like you like me wearing hats?
Matty, you look great. To me, you are perfect.
I'm on that kind of 4 a.m. caffeine anxiety type deal.
That's right. It's 4 a.m. for you.
Yeah,
and
also no filter.
Your body clock is not used to this. It was
right.
at one point in time, but not right now.
No. Now I'm an adult. Thank you, Fats. Misfit, that is out of order. Like, Misfit, I know you come in here a lot and we appreciate you, but that's almost timeout territory. And I haven't done that for a while, but I'm getting itchy.
Oh, calm down. It's just the crepuscular hours of the morning talking.
Okay. Griff, anyway, important news. Did you see the big match today? The big game?
Is this a soccer thing?
Yep, Newcastle United, first game of the season. Nice 1-0 victory over
Matty,
the Saints.
You're already off on a wrong foot. Nobody knows what nil means.
1-0 over the Saints of the South Coast.
Saints, they are in the South. Over here.
But this is Southampton.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then how did that go for you? Was that a good thing or a bad thing?
Oh, it's fantastic, yeah, because the ref was a cheating bastard and he sent off one of our players quite early into the game. So the 10 men of plucky Newcastle still came out on top.
Now, do soccer refs become like little micro celebrities? Does like everyone know who they are?
Oh, yeah. And people get more degenerate about that as well.
Yeah. Are there any refs that are... Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
I hope they're paid well. Are there any refs that people like?
No.
Oh, we got so-and-so. So they're just all bastards.
They're all evil. Apart from, there's this guy, he's an Italian guy called Pierluigi Collina. And he was even on a video game. Like, he was on a soccer video game cover. He was so popular. He was the best. He was just so strict. He was just this bald guy who'd just stare at people. And all the players respected him. And
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I like that. Like that. All right. Cool. Hit it. Bang.
Welcome to the Seattle Overload podcast, where the Seattle Seahawks have unfortunately lost week 2 of the preseason at the Tennessee Titans, 16-15, a one-score loss, which, I mean, it could have been a tie because Jason Myers did miss his consecutive game point after attempt. He missed one the previous week and he missed one this week. We can talk about that. But Griff, while it would have been nice for Seattle to put together a Ravens-style preseason winning streak, or for Mike McDonald to prove that he can win in the fourth quarter, it's not happened. But we can still, there's positives, a lot of positives from this game still. There's some negatives. There's some things we learned. But what's your overall impressions of this L?
It's another game that kind of confirmed everything that we think we know about this team to this point, the positives and the negatives. They are really deep at defensive line. I like their cornerback room a lot. I think the safeties have real life to them. The linebackers remain, for me, an open question. They're really well put together at the majority of what they're being asked to do. But I think that what they're being asked to do is not entirely what they'll be doing in the regular season, to put that as simply as possible. The few snaps and the sample size is really small, so that's a variable itself. But the few snaps are the kind of where they're put in positions where more would be asked of them. It's a coin flip right now as to, whether they play it right or not. Again, also backups. So, but it's kind of a collective theme across the linebackers. That said, Knight is definitely looking like the best of the bunch of who's played. On the flip side of the ball, Howell looked more sharp. He looked pretty good, actually, for a backup quarterback situation. He just needs to keep growing and developing. So O-line depth started to lose it a little bit, started to lose push in the run game. But yeah, it's like everything that we've kind of characterized about the team to this point is just being hammered home even more. I don't know. What were your general impressions?
Yeah, same stuff, really. I think the first half is what we can learn the most from, because it was good on. It was like Seattle's best depth that they were willing to play. The second half became very preseason-y, and I don't know how much we can garner from it, but let's kind of lead that into, solid takeaways. So I feel Laviska Shenault is probably making the roster, because in week 1 he had that, 40-yard kickoff return, and then in week 2 he's actually the lead blocker, because it seems a lot of these NFL teams on kick returns are putting 2 guys back there, and he's the lead blocker for D. Williams, who has a big return, and Shenault absolutely lays someone out after doing a pretty good job bouncing the run out, the return out. Looked like a duo type run, the way it pressed really tight inside and then bounced way to the perimeter after the edge was there. But also Shenault kind of showed his worth as a receiver in this game. I think they were trying to kind of see what he could do, and if he could justify a spot on the roster where you could work him in as a wide receiver 6 maybe, or 5 potentially, though they're young. There's lots of competition for that spot, including another guy who we'll talk about, but he had 3 catches for 27 yards on offense too. But with the new kick return stuff, Shenault also getting some touches, carrying the football, 1 carry for 5 yards, but a little kind of end around. Grubb's clearly trying to see what he can do on the offense side of the football. So
yeah, with the gadgety stuff too, right?
Right. So I mean, and you've spoke before, Griff, about how he's like a real actual NFL player. Like,
yeah. I like that he's physical. He really wants to hit people. He's a safety at heart, I think.
Yeah. Now, his $1.3 million deal, only $140,000 of that is guaranteed. So, not much financial security for him, but he is earning a spot, I would say, so far.
Yeah, it definitely feels that way. I'm really curious to see what the back half of the safety room looks like, or the receiver room, the depth, spots 4, 5, 6. It's interesting. I mean, obviously Bobo's a receiver 4, but what happens at 5 and 6, right?
So Aesop Winston Jr. Griff really staked his claim. We'll talk about Sam Howell in a second, but that was a beautiful catch from Winston, showing late hands, beating his guy in man coverage, did the one-on-one for a touchdown, almost 16-yard touchdown catch. But yeah, 3 catches, 47 yards. The Seahawks receiving leader in this game, and he's clearly got a connection with Sam Howell, something that McDonald referenced afterwards. But it's going to be tough for him to make the roster, isn't it?
Yeah, and age 27, he's not been productive in the NFL really at all. He's been a practice squad fringe guy his whole career. I really don't think, go routes don't earn roster spots because they just don't,
If
unfortunately.
only we had Seahawks preseason receiver examples of this to go off.
Yeah.
Like Casey Williams.
Because they have enough hedge for DK anyway, right? Via Bobo
and even like some of the catches Derek Young had tonight. I say he had one for 5 yards, but his deployment and route tree and just build, it looks like a DK light.
Right.
It's like this. It's a mirror, a reflection of what DK's asked to do.
Right. Winston did catch one of those ripped digs from Walker, right? Week 1. So, yeah. I can't say I've been diving into Winston's tape and how he's doing on other routes where he's not been targeted if he's winning or not.
That's disgusting. How dare you?
Right. But still, he and Derek Young are showing the most, I think, in Chenault. So I think maybe those 3 names are headlining for spots 5 and 6. And we'll see. Well, and there's Eskridge too. And I think the team wants Eskridge on the team for returning sake. So I don't know. I hope that at the very least, Winston can stay on the practice squad just so he can continue to remain an NFL employee, because I think that he deserves to be in the NFL still.
Yeah. So you mentioned Walker, Griff. This was, again, an opportunity for us to see both of the Seahawks' backup quarterbacks, and Howell did shine. He had 11 completions on 14 attempts for 153 passing yards. He led 3 scoring drives in 5 opportunities, which included that. It's a 23-yard touchdown pass to Winston. And yeah, he had a fumble, but it was a sack, and Seattle managed to recover it, so that kind of saved himself from having a bad play. And he looked really impressive, taking the underneath stuff. I think Seattle, particularly in that first half, they protected fairly well. Like, the sack was more of a coverage sack, and in a clear passing down. But I think they protected for Howell pretty well, including on that touchdown where they picked up 5 and a bit of a twist going on. And the Titans were throwing a lot of stuff at Seattle. But yeah, as you said, Griff, he looks like whereas in the previous game I was intrigued by what Walker showed, I think Walker found it difficult in the lower strings of pass protection, and also just didn't have that good a game, whereas Howell really thrived. And it also helped that Ryan Grubb decided to spam mesh concepts this game rather than last game. It seemed like quick outs were the thing. The trend of the day was the mesh, which I believe we saw about 6 times in the first half with Howell, and it also helped that the Titans kept leaving it wide ass open, including one which Howell just sailed, but it was still open.
Right. Yeah, that is interesting. They clearly wanted live reps with that. Maybe they didn't do well with it during the practice week, and they wanted to feel like they were better with it. Yeah, I don't know. Walker, Howell definitely has the edge after this game with Walker. Last week, I thought it was pretty even. This week, Howell definitely outplayed Walker. Howell's accuracy was more on point. I like seeing Howell rip that one, like, right up the numbers. I don't remember who caught it, but anyway, that was good to see. He managed the pocket better too. Last week, I remember him kind of adding extra steps and extra hitches when he didn't need to, and he was late
and doing that thing that he had a tendency of doing last season as well, is like trying to scramble when there's maybe no need to try and improvise that. I think he kind of cut that out tonight too.
He was cleaner. He was just cleaner, more on point, quicker with his every deliberate decision that he made was quicker. Cody White up the seam. That's right. Thank you, Becky. Hopefully that continues, and he just kind of continues to work on that trajectory. I will say this is a theme for both sides of the ball. The talent discrepancy is pretty large The Seahawks are more talented than who they're playing against, and I would like to see, which is a good thing, that signals right. But I really want to see the players that will be rotating in that are not the starters, that will still get some playing time. I really want to see how they do against stiffer competition. Like I want to see them stressed, because that's the thing. They've not been stressed yet, really at all. They haven't really been challenged. How do they work when it's a little more 50-50? How do they work through those things? It's just a lot of this tape isn't demonstrative other than like revealing that, yeah, the Seahawks are talented. But that particularly, that more so goes for the linebackers, really. Which I don't know. We'll get to the linebackers as a topic, but
Well, go on then. You really want to talk about the linebackers? I'll just finish on how that McDonald said afterwards. I thought Sam was really sharp, whereas Walker stands out in my mind that last week he almost threw a pick, and trying to sort of throw the ball, and it was like half a throwaway, half an attempted completion, and ended up almost in the defender's hands. And then this week he threw it and it hit a defender's hands.
Right.
Howell hasn't put the ball in harm's way either,
No.
other than that fumble.
That's really big with him, right? Protecting the ball. So
good for him. Now, linebackers, Griff, the hot topic.
Well, superficially, they're doing a lot of stuff on the broadcast, right? Which is great. The way the plays are playing out, at least, I don't know. How do we start this?
Well, let's start with the positive. In that Tyrese Knight, Griff had 8 tackles, 4 solo, 1 tackle for loss, which was a splashy play. I think one you'd expect him to make, but nonetheless, where was he? 4th round rookie? I think that's correct.
Yeah, 4th.
He inspired a kind of statement from Mike McDonald afterwards, which was, "I told you guys he makes tackles. You didn't want to believe me." He then added, "Very pleased with the tackles. It's time to step it up to the next level, communication-wise, blitz coverage, play recognition. It's almost like, hey man, you're not a rookie anymore. You got to grow up fast. Let's not be settled with tackles in the preseason." Which, I mean, that's a challenge to Knight to keep going, keep pushing. He's still, in the lower strings, but he's ahead now or he was, at least in this game, he was ahead of Patrick O'Connell, who was his Will type of rival. And given Jerome Baker, Seattle's free agent signing, who in theory would be the first string Will, is a guy who McDonald still can't give a date on when he's coming back, but should be coming back pretty soon in McDonald's words, certainly by week 1. Knight has an opportunity to take some snaps, take a job. Obviously, Malik Harrison with the Ravens played about 20% of the snaps last season. That might be slightly high, but some games he'd play more when they wanted a more coverage guy. He could play a bit on ball, bit off ball as like a third linebacker, and the chance is there for Knight. So Griff, that is the positive of the linebacker position from this game, or do you disagree?
No, I don't disagree. So when run defense, when they're playing with like one high principles, so they're gapped out. Every player on the field has one gap to worry about, unless there's a puller that will change. The idea, though, is that it's easier to fit the run that way, right, for each person. And that's always a really good measure to see how put together individual players are. And collectively as a unit, from the D-line to the linebackers and safeties, I mean, they're handling that really well, which is great. The only caveat I offer there is that McDonald didn't fit the run that way very frequently last year. And then in the few examples, really the one drive when Carl Scott was calling plays in the second half, where we saw them actually try to fit the run out of a too high shell with more, instead of gap fitting, but ball fitting, where if you're down a gap in the box. So if there are 6 blockers, 7 gaps, you've got 6 defenders. If there are 8 gaps, you have 7 defenders, and you're dispersing that last gap across your second level kind of evenly. There are different ways to do it, but you don't have the ability to play more vertically. You have to play more conservative, more laterally to accommodate the fact that you guys you're collectively, you're outgapped. So in that one, in that one drive, the whole defense like fell apart. That's where we saw a couple of those explosive runs, then the bubble popped each time, and they clearly like aren't handling that well. But that doesn't stick out in our mind because it's one drive. What about the other 11 or 12 or whatever it was, where they were snuffing the crap, where they were,
Right.
snuffing the crap out of the run? So it's just it's great that they're handling the stuff that is like schematically neutral. Their talent and their ability and assignment correctness is winning out. But when they're schematically disadvantaged, how are they handling it? They kind of fell apart. But again, that's only like 7 or 8 snaps. We don't have enough data. So how do you balance that? If you're in the mind of like, well, what do we think of the linebackers against the run as a unit? How do we balance those two things? So I'm really not trying to conclude anything other than in gap fits they did great, and ball fits they're not doing very great. They're also not doing a lot of ball fits. Is that a signal of like, hey, my guys can't handle that this year, so I'm going to be more of a one high team and pick my spots with 2 high? I don't know, but that's just that's how I view the run game right now, the defense.
And the Titans only averaged on the game of 3.5 yards per carry, which, I mean, that's pretty okay, good. Isn't it? Pretty good. Including Julius Chestnut, magnificent name, averaging 3.5 yards per carry himself. So that was their first back. That's when Seattle's highest string was in, including Knight, and yeah, good for them. The linebackers, I'm excited just to watch the All-22. Sorry to say that, guys, but we'll be tweeting it out in the week, because the Titans they ran a fair bit, particularly of Malik Willis, of kind of heavy play action, your hard run fake play action stuff, which that will be when you see the full picture. You might see some linebackers struggling, but there was also times where Willis, looked like there may have been an intermediate crosser coming open, and then he didn't throw it. So that may imply that, the weak hook linebacker who's responsible for turning to find that route played it well, or perhaps, now it did help that, well, yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that, Griff?
Well, we have only 5 or 6 clean examples of hard-nosed play action where the interior, either hook or curl defenders, are actually the ones being isolated by the offense. And in those snaps, as a unit, it's been bad. But again, that sample size is so small. It doesn't help from an eval purpose that the opposing quarterback situation has been really rough. So it's just like, I want to see, like, I was looking forward to this game because I thought Callahan under center, pocket play action, but like still Malik Willis wants to run around a lot. He bails at the first sign of pressure.
And then Rudolph kind of got in game states where it's more shotgun, less like play action, which was unfortunate.
Right. So, and those are the main things we're looking for. Now, on the note of like, when you try to parse how well a coached, or how well is a team coached, stuff like that, and you try to isolate that to a position group, like, I'm not going to blame the starters for stuff that backups are doing, right? But if all the backups are doing it, kind of making the same mistakes, like they're not keying run pass very quickly, they're not getting to their drops very quickly on stuff where it's actually like hurting them, where it's hurting their position group, that is the play call. And it's a theme across the board. Even if the offense isn't taking advantage of it, my mind goes to, well, how are they being coached? Maybe it will just look better with Baker in there. Because Baker historically has handled that well. Dodson has not. And we didn't get to see him this game. The first pass of the game was Radigan overrunning the play, biting, and that cross goes right over the top of him.
Was that not I wondered if that was the backside curl flat player, because was it not 4 to first crosser?
No, it wasn't, because there were two vertical routes from the boot side.
Oh, okay.
So it was split foot. It was split flow. So we cook all day. Okay. And now with Knight is not. He just needs to overlap for something into the flat, or something into like the curl area to the field. He doesn't have to have primary leverage on the crosser, but he keyed the run pass really slowly. Now, maybe because he knows the crossing route isn't his primary responsibility, he knows maybe he can be more aggro if he gets a boundary run, aggressive. But like, it's just what little data we do have that would point to, hey, how does this unit handle play action? Only based off of the information we have, it's not looking great. But
No, it's
it
looking like
doesn't
you're going to have to play quite a bit of man and not ask them to play zone,
quite a bit of
particularly
man
cover three,
in
where
weeks
they're
and
going to be
or
stripped.
field rotated cover 3 with the safeties. I think that's a tool that they should use to their advantage. That's leveraging that's alleviating a weakness. Then it's also leveraging one of the strengths of your safety room, which is underneath play of their safeties. Like I think they have a potential for an above average safety room. But if you were to characterize a safety room in the aggregate, or if you were to note a weakness, like any unit has a weakness, like the Seahawks receivers are a great group, but they do have a weakness. They're not great ball winners. Okay. So the Seahawks safeties, if you were to denote a weakness, they're not a rangy safety group. They're a good safety group, I think, but they're not a rangy one. You leverage the strength that they do have, and that's their downhill explosiveness and their ability to jump stuff. That's killing two birds with one stone. You're optimizing your safeties and you're helping out your linebackers. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we'll see some of that. But those are just the open questions. They might have the corner talent and the D line to compensate for all of this, though. Like they straight up might. I think the D line, like Derek Hall, is just kicking ass, man. That's so cool. I know there's some thought that Mafe hasn't been having a great camp. Maybe that's true, but I think he's been fine. He was fine this game. It was a little rough week 1 handling the run stuff. But
yeah, well, let's talk about that. So it's noteworthy that Boye Mafe was playing this game. Of course, this was a game where Seattle chose not to play a lot of their starters. Mafe on the, I believe it's like unofficial. I think the PR department puts it together, but it's not coaching. I don't think there's much coaching input into it. But he's second string behind the still injured. I'm completely blanking on Draymond Jones. He's still behind Draymond Jones, and Darrell Taylor played into the second half, which that speaks to the depth that Seattle has at outside linebacker that we've covered a lot. But Mafe playing alongside Derek Hall, and then Greg Bell of the Tacoma News Tribune tweeting out midweek to me that the jury's still very much out on Boye Mafe in this system. Shows he's really having to kind of earn it after periods last season where he looked like Seattle's best outside linebacker overall. So Griff, I don't think we're concerned about that, but it is interesting. I kind of get the vibe though from Mike McDonald that he's just making guys earn it.
Yeah. I mean, I like how he's handling. I like how he's handling Knight. Knight is doing things well. He is doing things well. Stuff that's in front of him, he's coming down and he's nuking, which is pretty cool to see.
What about Mafe?
With Mafe, playing that much, I don't know. I think it is a numbers game, like you mentioned, the injuries in front of him.
Taylor was working his way back still, even though he did play into the second half.
Yeah, I think Mafe's fine, man. I mean, 9 sacks last year. The regular season reps from last year carry more weight than anything that would happen in July of this year, So,
and we should say, like, the Ravens with Clowney and Van Noy, they're not playing more than 60% of snaps each game, really. Like, the Baltimore's system of defense has always rotated edges and been like tried to be 4 deep there, at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, good night for Hall with 1 sack and Ben through contact. And Mafe was a menace, which is a bit to your point on the talent discrepancy, particularly Seattle's second string. In certain positions, it's very notable. Obviously, NFL offensive lines, there's a depth issue, or sparsity. Scarcity.
There you go.
Is sparsity a word? Could definitely.
What's the noun form of sparse? Come on,
Anyway,
help us out, overloader grammarians.
yeah, come on,
Noun
grammarians.
form is sparse. Sparseness.
Yeah,
There you go.
there's a sparseness of offensive line depth, but what that means is when Seattle has like Boye Mafe playing almost into the second half, there's a cheat code. Like,
Yeah.
so especially when they're playing him on the inside of over a guard, which is something he'll do.
Well, now hold on a second. Sparsity is a word. Holy shit.
Hell yeah, that's right. Remember, it's the
That,
English language.
that's crazy. So we've got sparseness and sparsity. The English language is a mess, man. We're a train wreck.
Yeah. Anyway, Griff. Other kind of playing notes is that Mike Morris was playing super late. He also had a sack. Again, it's to the point that it's a bit unfair.
So cool, man.
But he's a cool player. Griff, does that concern you, Morris playing late, that he won't make the roster? Because they are deep there.
No, I don't. I think they just wanted their guys to get reps, man. I mean, they may not be playing a whole lot of football this year because Morris is DT5. You know, Miles Adams is doing well. Wait. What's going on with Cam Young?
He's hurt.
Okay.
But that's pertinent because we mentioned him being hurt way before, but in a previous episode. But him being hurt, that's like straight up bad for his career. Like he's probably going to be cut, and that's very difficult now.
Yeah. He'll get picked up by the Eagles probably to reunite with Hurt. Yeah, so Morris is cool though, man. He can play. He's playing one technique. He's playing three. He holds up against
playing
the
outside
run.
backer.
He holds up against the run no matter where you put him. That's so cool.
It's like I tweeted the clip of which everyone tweeted of him dropping into pass coverage and getting a pass breakup last week. But then I also contrasted that with him playing a 2-eye, so inside shoulder the guard, 2-gapping and winning into the secondary gap for the TFL. It's like insane.
Yeah. He's sick, dude. He's such a cool utility player. And I don't know if he's going to give too much by way of pass rush in his career. Maybe he does, but like they don't need him to. He's just such a dope player to have.
Yeah.
So, you know.
The other note is Mike Jackson playing into the second half, which is hardly a surprise given he is probably still behind Trey Brown for the left corner spot, which becomes relevant when Devin Witherspoon plays in the nickel, which we expect him to do for the majority of Seattle's defensive snaps. So,
right. Heads up, we've got a lightning storm going on, so if I cut out, that's why.
Or if there's like a fire.
Or if there's a fire.
Yeah. Hopefully not, though.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
Might be
thanks
too
for the
wet
heads
for
up.
fire. Like lightning-induced fires, or when it's raining hard. I don't know if that's common or not.
Yeah, they're really rare. Like, it will never happen. Okay, so finally on the defense. Pardon?
Do they have lightning over there on your neck of the woods?
No, it hasn't made it over here yet.
I meant in general. Like, is lightning a thing in the UK?
Yeah, no, it's a thing.
Okay, cool.
So finally on the defense, this was an opportunity for Seattle's defensive assistants to compete. So the first half, Adam Dirty, the defensive coordinator, called the Seahawks preseason game. And in the second half, secondary coach Carl Scott called plays, which Mike McDonald described as it's tough not to call it, because obviously McDonald is usually the play caller. But he also said it was a great opportunity for those guys. I thought they did a great job, great experience for those guys to game plan and call it on their own. Now, in basic terms, the Seahawks gave up 7 points in Adam Dirty's period, and they gave up 9 points in Carl Scott's period. That's 0 touchdowns in Carl Scott's period. That's also 1 interception from Tyler Carter in Carl Scott's period, and 0 takeaways. In Dirty's period, I don't know how much to read into this. Like, it did feel slightly different. like as in there was a bit less sauce going on, but then also it's the preseason, it's not the starters. You're trying to give them basic looks.
Right.
I don't know how much you can read into this,
Yeah,
but
I don't think there's anything. But go
there
ahead.
is a time and place where McDonald isn't going to want to call defensive plays anymore because ultimately he wants to be a head coach and it's difficult to be a head coach and call defensive plays. He will have learned a lot from this. So will those staff. He also mentioned how, like, something along the lines of, seeing how they view situations and, like,
Right.
deciding how they as a staff want to view the situations. So
And
smart idea, I guess.
yeah, no, it's cool. It's definitely a cool exercise and just good for them for their own sakes. I do wonder though how much them being working with one area of the defense informed them how to call. If they called
Right, like,
with total defense in mind, or do they want to put their guys in certain positions to see how do my DBs handle this, or how does
well,
my
also,
D line handle this?
when Kyle Scott called like cover 1 once, I was like, oh, he's just a DB guy. He thinks his guys can play man, live in man coverage,
Yeah,
which probably wasn't the case. But to your point, I think they're trying to get good spots for themselves as well. So
yeah,
all right, Griff. Let's enough of the defense. Let's go back to the offense because Kenny McIntosh. We're quite excited about him. I think 8 carries, 46 yards, 5.8 yards per carry. He looked nice. Like he even had a catch in the open field. He had 2 catches for 17 yards, but he kind of cut it in a. It's just the way he explodes out of his cuts that he has some real kind of juice and burst for.
yeah.
You can talk about what was it like a 4.6-ish 40, but the short area quickness is there. Forget the 40. He's a very interesting, exciting type of player, and he was in the joint practices working in with the first string offense as the passing down back. So not only does it look like he
Yeah.
might make the roster, but it looks like he's going to get some offensive playing time, and also he's showing not just that he can be a passing down back, but if they need a change of pace beyond the luxury of riches that they have in Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet, that McIntosh will be all right for a couple of carries in a regular season game.
Definitely. He did run a 4.62, but he did have a 1.54 10-yard split. That probably
Oh, that's fine then. That's fine. I believe in the testing then.
Yeah.
What was his vertical and broad?
I don't think we have those.
God damn it.
But he's just kind of good at everything as a runner, like every trait. But yeah, I mean, he looks attuned to NFL speed. It is a little interesting that the blocking for him is better on average than it is for the other guys. It's just how it's worked out.
Yeah, and there was a bit of.
But he takes advantage of it.
Yeah, and there was a bit of. I mean, I don't want to bash Kobe Lewis, like, good for him, but he did miss a hole at one point, it looked like.
Yeah. He's a good runner. He honestly reminds me of Chris Carson, the way how tight he is off of blocks and stuff and feels those creases developing, hits them with the right tempo, pacing, the kind of a similar running gait or stride. He's just not as explosive. He doesn't have quite the contact balance, stuff like that. But McIntosh, he can tote the rock, man. He can. I could see him being a volume back in the NFL, honestly.
Well, you had a bit of a comparison for him, didn't you, to a former Seahawks running back?
I just mentioned Chris Carson. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Never mind. I'm
But
listening.
yeah. No, it's all good. I've done the same. But yeah, I like him. But Halani is supposedly ahead of him in practice. So just the games have favored. You don't know? Okay.
No,
the games have favored McIntosh either way.
I mean, Halani only got 2 carries for 3 yards this game. So, maybe they're like, we like him, but we're trying to get him on the practice squad, so let's just, stop showing him.
Right.
That's the sort of stuff which happens in preseason. So Jay mentioned K-Mac caused the fumble by tripping Stone Forsyth. His pass play does still seem to be lacking. I mean, that seems like a very random type of play.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can draw massive conclusions, Jay. But yeah, fair point. Right, Griff. Final thing, I guess, is Well, there's a couple of things. Grubb's run game, like, look, there's a few more wrinkles, but it
Yeah,
looks pretty diverse. I really like just how the kind of off the line of scrimmage tight end is being used like as a modern fullback. Almost lots of different ways of wrapping him and inserting him and splitting him, and yeah, just looks like they're going to have a lot of ways to run the football and crease and get angles on fronts, especially too high.
yeah,
Big fan of it. Looking forward to that. Can't wait for real football and see if it actually is a thing and works.
yeah, yeah. I like it. I like that he's got wrinkles and stuff up his sleeve. I definitely like how he uses motion to pre-snap motion to change alignments on the defensive backs. He doesn't really use pre-snap motion for coverage identification.
Other than the running back out wide into the backfield, which is
Right,
like NFL 101, right?
right. He does it to kind of get a late leverage advantage, but like for small ball stuff, like
What is
to aid the RPO, to aid
right?
quick game type of thing. Maybe we'll see it with choice, but he uses like the motion at the snap, which he actually doesn't use a lot of at UW. But motion at the snap is more associated with the play action game, and I'm sure we'll see all sorts of that stuff with Gino. Man, I really want to see Gino in there though, because I really want to know what Grubb's bread and butter drop back stuff is, the intermediate drops. Like, okay, when you're not doing quick game, when you're not running choice, and when you're not going deep, what does it look like? And that's what we haven't seen a lot of.
We saw some choice in this game, didn't we? I know
Yeah, we
you're
saw a
saying
little
we
bit of
haven't seen the
choice.
bread and butter. Yeah.
And like we know one of those things that I'm talking about is mesh, obviously. That's part of the bread and butter. That's a 5-step drop that's not quick game, even though it's kind of shallow and often. Or
Yeah, it's like how many, because, I forgot to say it after the previous game, but it felt like a lot of those quick outs were the bread and butter quick game, but a lot of them came off run pass option. And I don't know how much run pass option you can do in, there's only a certain amount, like any play, but like what else is there on top of that? And then what
right.
other RPO is there if the corner's pressed up? Looked like they were trying to get like the classic like flat slant with the basically you're reading the apex and you'll throw the flat route this week, but we didn't see it happen because the apex, I guess, stayed on the flat route,
Right.
and so the ball was handed off. But yeah, intrigued as to what other quick game there is. I guess there was stick last week, wasn't there? It was like hitch out.
Yeah, definitely that. He has this triangle where the number one, it's so from a two receiver side, the number one runs a go, the number two just kind of hitches. It's like it's not even a
and there's
slant.
double slants backside.
Yeah, and then the back flares, so it gives you a
Yeah,
triangle
it's like you call it inverted
snag.
stick or inverted snag. Yeah.
Yeah, I think inverted snag, but it doesn't. The ordering doesn't conflict the curl flat defender the same way, but it plays out the same for the quarterback as far as
Yeah,
who's where.
Howe made a pretty good read on it last week, I think.
Yeah,
It's more like a quarters beater because the quarter flat player is kind of in a spot.
right.
Anyway,
It's a good quick game deal for like if you get quarters weak and then the back, if he's offset to the field to the strong side, you can flare him out late, not late, but flare him weak side, and then just to put that flat defender in a bind, see what happens there.
yeah.
I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah. Finally, Griff, I mean, Jamie Sheriff stood out to me.
Cool. He's outplaying Nelson Caesar, and I like Nelson Caesar at Houston. So
Yeah,
at this point, Sheriff might be the practice squad stash at edge.
Yep. He made a play where, well, he made a couple of plays in this game, but the undrafted free agent out of South Alabama, he's an old guy, he's 24, but he was playing base outside backer, so they had 5 guys down, and he had counter run towards him, and he very quickly in the moment spilled the guard The first puller, which is what you're supposed to do, and what it meant was Marquise Blair could clean up the play, and Sheriff was notably pumped afterwards because he recognised what he'd done in that moment, and yeah, that's
Yeah,
good for him.
indeed. Agreed.
And finally, Griffin injury update on Pharaoh Brown. He went down with a clutching his knee, I think, in the Titans practice, and McDonald said they're still working through on how long it's going to be, which I think is quite significant because, I mean, Brown in preseason week 1, we got a glimpse of what he could bring to the Seahawks offense as a blocking tight end. He was mauling guys. He was blocking them really well. I think he's signed this contract in Seattle to show he can do a bit of the more of the pass catching and earn himself a better payday. And obviously, with Noah Fant not being the greatest of blockers, particularly in line, Seattle losing Will Dissly, losing Colby Parkinson.
Yeah.
It's not great.
Mm-mm.
So, opportunity for Brady Russell, for Barner, who had he appeared in this game. That
Yeah, he had that one catch down the sideline.
He got left alone on mesh for ages.
Right. Yeah, Tennessee did not handle that well at all. Trying to think of the only things we didn't talk about. I think Kobe Bryant looks kind of real.
Yeah.
He's like safety 4.
But then this is the crazy thing, right? And he's probably not going to make the roster, but he's battling not just for a spot on Seattle's practice squad, but like a spot on a team who actually needs like a safety who has some juice on their actual roster. But like even Marquise Blair was like flying around, which he does, but he was
well.
There's to your point about them being deep at safety.
Right.
This is a guy they picked up off the street, and he's still doing things.
That one
well.
Right. Well, that one big hit he had late in the game. I think that was, I don't know, was that quarters or cover 2? If it was cover 2, I'll cool my jets a little bit. But if it was quarters, I mean, I'd like to see one of their safeties drive on that. I've only seen one Seahawks safety in recent years actually handle high intermediate inbreakers.
Isn't he a linebacker?
Supposedly a linebacker, but like he's late, like being a tick late on that. On that route is going to get completed if Mason Rudolph is going to hit it.
Some of the drives the Titans had, not just the run defense, but some of the over the middle passes they completed. Really interested to go back and look over those. I know Lynch, number 40, the linebacker, he had some tough moments.
And that's why I wonder with because Radigan's been doing the same thing. Knight has done it a little bit, not as extremely, but I wonder how are they being coached? Because I don't know, man. You get 2 vertical routes to your side, and then you bite on the shorter one instead of if you peek the outer one still being vertical, you keep gaining depth. You at least cap your own zone to 10, 12 yards before you decide to bite on something. I just don't get it. Connor, Matty was talking about Blair being cut, not Kobe.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. Griff, finally, we got questions from people here. Misfit saying, any clarity on right and left guard after today? No.
I didn't get a good look at Haynes, and I want to see how he did. But it sounds like the only reason why Haynes is playing left guard is because Lakin is out. I think there's very little clarity, actually, because
it's very murky.
Yeah, Bradford, I mean, some people have said he's not doing well in camp, but then others are like, well, Haynes still hasn't beat him out yet. But Haynes is kind of coming on. But Haynes is only playing left guard because Tomlinson is out. I don't know. It would be cool if it was those two because I don't think Tomlinson is good.
Yeah. Is AJ Barner who we thought he was? Yeah, I think so. Why did PJ Walker regress into Trey Lance from Brendan? I think, like we said, I think it was a protection thing. Fat saying, honestly, I'm having a hard time feeling invested in this team.
Wait till you see Gino out there. Things will change.
Why was McLennan Curtis getting absolutely smoked at right tackle from Brendan? Because he is a very good athlete, but he's not like a tackle athlete.
He's a guard.
He's a guard
playing
tackle, and so he's really good at the run blocking. But when you get speed off the edge, it's difficult. And then how did the... Yeah, we've kind of answered that, Brendan. Tough to... We'll watch the tape. It's tough to tell. I think they did okay. Like, run game-wise, it looked pretty good. And then OG3, what do you guys... Nice to see you, OG3. What do you guys think of Maffei playing inside and playing that long? Yeah, we kind of said that.
Just a pass rush thing, right?
Yeah. It's cool that he's being moved around. Expect that to happen more with guys. They're still experimenting to see if he can do it, and it looked pretty good, so...
Yep.
There you go. Right, well, thank you, everyone. Now, just want to show you what I have to put up with. Like, this is just... Look at this. Hold on. Look at this crap. This is just...
What's wrong? What's wrong? I thought, oh, I bet Maddie would have something to think about that.
Have you read DuckTales?
No. Oh, no, I think I have.
You have? Oh, it's a TV show. Never mind, it's not a book.
They got a lot of Chesters over there.
No, they don't.
Winchester, Manchester.
Keep going.
Just to name a few.
Chester. There's a place called Chester.
Is there just Chester?
Yeah.
Binchester, of course. Westchester.
I don't think so. All right.
God Manchester.
Please follow us on Twitter at CMikeSpinMove, at Matty F Brown, and
at
Seattle Overload.
Hold up. Chichester? C-H-I Chester?
Yeah.
Chichester?
Chichester.
That's crazy. No, that's mad.
Please give us a 5-star review. We'll be back next Sunday with the final preseason recap, and then it's real football, and that is exciting. Cannot wait for that. And we get to see Geno Smith, and we get to see, I don't know, Leonard Williams. Cool players. Matty, why is Leicester pronounced like that? I don't know, OG3. It just is. Griff, would you trade for Julius Chestnut?
No.